Hey, this is Jeff Johnston. Welcome to the Living Undeterred podcast. And today I have an exciting new friend, a new conversation we're going to have today. Alexandra Miles is with Project Blackbird, and we just crossed paths like I tend to do when I'm out there advocating every day. And was
I just
just
say really quickly.
really,
Oh, sorry.
yeah. What's
Just to
that?
add really quickly, while I do love bluebirds, we have Project
Oh,
Blackbird, but
what did I say?
well, I kind of like it, Project
Oh my
Bluebird,
gosh.
which is
Yeah.
lovely. But
Yeah. I told myself, don't say that, don't say that. And then I said it. So
I don't know, you might
anyway.
have inspired the next iteration of our organization. This is a
No, this is as anyone
rebrand.
that follows me knows I have attention deficit and I just laugh at it. So all good, all good.
I loved it.
Super excited to have this conversation, just talk about what you're doing and kind of what brought you into mental wellness. But I guess before we start, maybe introduce yourself and where you're located, and
Yeah,
we'll go from there.
that sounds great. Yeah, so my name is Alexandra Miles. I am the founder and CEO of Project Blackbird that might be soon known as Project Bluebird. I love that.
No, I like the first one.
Both are beautiful. All birds flock together, whatever they
Yes,
are, we fly
yes.
together. But I founded the organization about 5 years ago. I myself am in Washington, D.C., but have circled around the states, various jobs and careers before starting this organization. And the quick bit that I'll give is I founded the organization after struggling myself, and being in a place where I did not feel safe, or I didn't feel safe saying I'm struggling and I need help. I didn't feel safe asking for help. I didn't feel safe admitting what I was going through because I thought that I was alone. I didn't think anybody else like me was struggling because those in my community and those in my circle just weren't talking about it. And I ended up at a treatment center where I
Hmm.
found connection and I
Hmm.
found safety in opening up. And so, what Project Blackbird then became is a nonprofit that runs a program to help individuals, students, and adults alike help them feel safer acknowledging mental health, but also connecting them to direct care. So, providing therapy or other resources for the students, covering it with the organization so that they can have a year of developing mental health literacy, but then also having a resource fair in the back of the room so they can connect. And I can share more exactly what that programming looks like. But that has become um, the organization has become my baby, if you will.
Yeah.
This is my purpose here.
Yeah, I love it. Now I know when we first met, I wasn't aware of this, but you have a movie, like a documentary or so forth, with kind of attaches to your nonprofit's objectives, and it's a
Yeah.
resource. Is that correct way to look at it? Like,
So
how does that work? And tell me a little bit about the
yeah.
documentary.
So the film is actually what sparks the event, not necessarily the resource, but what destigmatizes. And it's actually not a documentary, it's a narrative film.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. We found in the very beginning that what is so powerful about narrative films, and don't get me wrong, documentaries are wonderful, but sometimes when you watch a documentary, you feel like you're getting a lesson, you're being taught
Mm,
that. And when you
mm,
watch something that's narrative, you lose yourself. There's this empathy that's established that you're sometimes lacking with a documentary. So, what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring in these audience members, students primarily. We wanted students to watch this, lose themselves in the characters, and start to empathize with where mental health struggle might come from. Start
mm,
to really feel like they know these characters and put themselves in their shoes, in the shoes of these characters. So it's about a 13-minute film, short film that we screen. And we started off with storytelling in that manner. And then we moved to the next element of storytelling, which is a panel that we bring together where we have professional athletes, actors, artists, role models, and heroes sharing their story and sharing
mm.
their own lived experience around mental health so that these kids and teenagers and other students so that they realize that their heroes are human. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to ask for help. Everybody has something that they go through. We just don't all talk about it. So it's really just using storytelling to create that safe space.
So is there any limit on the topics? Like, do you cover suicidal ideation? Do you cover,
Mhm.
eating disorders, body dysmorphia, the LBGT community? I mean, do,
Yes.
do you have, yeah, so
All of the above.
I
Yeah, the
answered my own
program
question. Yeah.
we like to say it's very grassroots. It's really understanding the hosts that are bringing us on and their students or their adults or their population, their community, understanding the needs of that community and what really resonates with that community. And so, like you mentioned, we have an eating disorder program, a substance abuse program. We have an athlete mental health program,
Mm.
general mental health. We've done LGBTQ. We've done various communities. Really, it should feel at the end of the day like every single student in this audience is seen. You know, we want them to feel seen as individuals and as a community too.
So this narrative, real quickly, what's it about? Like is it an individual experience somebody's having that you kind of get to see behind the scenes of somebody struggling, or is it more of a synopsis of holistic wellness overall, like a snapshot of everybody that's struggling, which would be all of us? But
So the one that we have right now and what started the organization was actually my own story about a young woman who I met at a treatment center when I was
okay.
there at the treatment center. So we share with them that not only is it based on a true story, it's our true story. And
Mm.
we're not the only ones with a story. They have a story and you have a story. And we allow them to journal themselves. They do an anonymous exchange. They leave their journal prompts behind and they take home a stranger's. So the whole thing is built around storytelling. But at the moment, it starts with our film, Our Story. However, as we program in various locations and various audiences, different schools, we're actually actively bringing on different films to open up this event. So, for example, we're working with a national PBS TV show called How Are We Today?
Mm.
We screen an episode of How Are We Today for elementary and middle school children. Following that episode, we then fly out the cast who are now their heroes and role models. And then the cast stands in front of them, sits in front of them, and they share their lived experience around mental health. So we we're bringing in various stories. We'll have one that is more men's focused, one that is more athlete focused,
Mm.
um, different iterations of mental health struggle, substance abuse, so that it can be more specific to the event. So nothing about this event is cookie cutter. It really is planned and programmed to be really special for each host that receives it and brings it on.
Where do you think we get it wrong as a society when it comes to supporting those that are underrepresented in the areas where mental illness, mental health are so prevalent? Like where's the gaps and voids in the system
Yeah.
today that we have?
I think, especially when it comes to different underserved communities and populations, I think what we need to do better first is better understand and better listen and better ask. I think first it's understanding where the stigma lies and understanding who is experiencing what struggle. And right now, I don't think we're asking all of those questions to every single community. So I think we need to do a much better job just understanding the world that we live in and understanding what the struggle is. And then once we understand what the struggle is, I think we need to do a better job understanding how to break that stigma. So the
Hmm.
stigma comes first. But the problem is, and the reason that we address all of this in one program together is it's one thing to feel safer opening up about it, but if you don't know where to go, then it becomes incredibly overwhelming and possibly very hurtful,
Right.
and could lead to something the opposite of what we want. So I think first and foremost, it's just understanding the landscape right now and understanding how people are feeling in terms of what I think we're missing when it comes to mental health and recovery. I think my answer to that would be that there is no one size fits all for recovery, or there's no one pill that fixes everything. And I think if we can just better wrap our minds around helping every individual feel seen, I think
Hmm.
that's what I see again and again is those that are struggling don't necessarily feel seen. They don't feel seen, understood. When you feel like you're alone in this world, that's when everything turns to the worst place. So to have everyone on this planet feel like somebody sees them, I think is an incredibly important step to take in the very beginning to then help them get the help that they need.
Yeah, and there's so many opportunities out there in regards to, say, artificial intelligence, AI,
Mhm.
new technology out there. how it can be incorporated in, programs like Brighton, where it's an app, where it's a lot of empowerment based, inspirational type curriculum opportunities, routines, things like that. Because
100%. Resiliency.
for me, when I came into this space 9 years ago when Seth passed, everything was so focused on treatment,
Mhm.
focused on putting out the fires, downstream of the issues that humanity was having. So, and when I look back at my own situation with which most of us do that when we are thrust into some scenario, we just look at our own situation, what we could have done better or different. I always question, like, why was so much emphasis on like raising awareness? Like I got really tired of raising awareness. I mean, I saw all this advocacy out there promoting these, fentanyl awareness workshops and all these things. And I'm like, I decided I was going to really try to focus on behavior change. It's like, it's like, to me, it's the same analogy or the same story as being highly motivated but not disciplined. It's
Mhm.
like, where's that pivot
Yeah,
from
we have
from
to
from
move from
from
A to B.
watching a narrative or listening to a panel and you're like, yeah, I'm all excited, I'm ready to quit drinking or whatever. Then you walk out of that workshop, you
And
get in
it's
your
gone.
car, right? You get in your car and you're look at your text and it's your ex or something, or it's your business or it's your job that your boss is mad, and you're right back in a very short amount of time.
Hmm.
To me, that's where like I wanted to live in that space. I wanted to build Brighton in that chaos. And I think it's an opportunity for a nonprofit like Project Blackbird and Brighton. I think it's an opportunity to seize this void and gap in the system where I think a lot of experts like to say, oh, we got broken people. But the reality is we have a substantially inept, broken system that's not equipped to handle the unfortunate demand that we have. So I'm kind of talking, rambling, but there is a question in there. I think my question is, how do you see us, maybe not necessarily your nonprofit or even Brighton, but how do you get people disciplined to actually want to work on the things that they complain about? Hey, I'm depressed. Hey, I'm sad, but no one wants to go to the gym. No one wants to eat healthy. No one wants to meditate because it involves work. It's like there's something going on in our heads that are blocking us from improving human flourishing.
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to try to figure out.
Yeah. I mean, I do think we have to be resiliency focused, and unfortunately it will take work, and it does. I think repetition. But I wonder if it's just starting in bite-sized pieces,
Oh,
for many
absolutely.
individuals, and
Yeah.
saying, can you just wake up in the morning and say these 5 words to yourself,
Yeah.
or these five, whatever it is, and starting in those bite-sized pieces. But I think it has to be more actionable. I think therapy is wonderful. Of course, our organization at the present provides covered therapy for a year, but I think what's tough about therapy sometimes is it ends up being this kind of mindless commitment that individuals don't carry through in their week. So what I mean by that is you'll maybe meet with your therapist once a week, or every other week, and you're there in the therapy session, but then you forget about it in between, and you're not doing anything in between. So
Right.
it kind of
Right.
just ends up being, this mundane
Mm-hmm.
meeting that just happens a lot during the course of the year, but doesn't actually make any changes. So I think having something small but actionable, that you can do every day. And the reality is, when you start doing it, if you can get someone to do that for 2 weeks,
Oh,
it
yeah.
makes enough of a dramatic difference
Yep.
that they will continue to do it because they'll start to feel better. And so finding those little bite-sized ways to improve.
I use the same analogy or metaphor for, let's say, an athlete. Let's take a high caliber golfer like Tiger Woods or a basketball player like Steph Curry. If you watch them like practice versus game time, their practice is very methodical. It's very they're very aware of every angle, every mechanical thing. But you watch them in a game, there's no thinking involved. It's
Hmm.
just muscle memory. You don't see Steph Curry go for a shot and he's thinking of his elbow and his
Right.
wrist, and or Tiger Woods thinking of hitting an iron from 180 yards out. He's not overthinking things. And
Right.
I think I look at mental health and mental wellness as kind of the same way. It's like you have your practice, you get up, you do your gratitude, You
Mhm.
wake up, you have a negative thought. You're like, oh, stop, go away. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't like you anymore. Your negative thought. Go, just, don't go to someone else. Just get the hell just
Mhm.
get out of here. Right. And you do that enough, and you actually can rewire your brain
100%.
like an athlete does, where now you're not really consciously thinking of telling that negative thought to go away. It just dies a slow death.
Absolutely.
And
And
there's something in that.
no, it's a
I'm just
great
a dad
analogy.
from Iowa. I don't really know all the bioscience and the mechanics. I just know what works for me. And when I are in situations where I have to find that thing, like, to make me go run on my elliptical versus not, something clicks. And normally it's me just getting mad. It's like, I'm just saying, like the other day, I didn't really want to go on my elliptical. And I thought about my 95-year-old dad who had a stomach aneurysm and he almost died. And he would love to go run on the elliptical.
Yeah.
So I reframed it into like,
Yeah. That you
instead of
get to
saying,
run on the elliptical.
I got to go work out, I get the honor of
Yes.
working out. And these are all things that are free in abundance. They're easy. Stoics have been using them for thousands of years. And it's like, we need to kind of, I think, go back to the simple
Great.
things and not sit around and think about our angles and our mechanics and all the technical stuff. And that's where I think, I'm excited to learn more about what you're doing, but I know at Brighton, that's where we really wanted to focus on, was intentionally getting back to basics, going
Yeah.
upstream. You need to practice like you do anything,
Mhm. Mhm.
anything. I pitch a lot to investors. Well, I don't go into that cold. I practice, So
Yeah.
it's like, why would you go into potential depression, potential anxiety or suicidal ideation, which are all, they're always on the table, always. As humans, I think we always have um, it's always out there that you could have these thoughts. Like, why wouldn't you practice
Yeah.
in advance of these things like Tiger and Michael Jordan did
100%.
and Steph Curry? I don't know that. And that's why I get frustrated when I look at people who complain all the time, and I want to ask them, but I don't. It's like, well, how often do you work out? And then,
Yeah.
they think working out is like getting huge. I know how often you just go walk for half an hour. That's
Yeah.
working out. How often you get up
Out
and
your
just,
mind. How often do you work
yeah.
out your mind?
Do you meditate? Well, I can't meditate. Well, have you tried? Have you really tried?
Yeah.
Or you just tried it once and thought about lunch and just quit? I mean, that's not trying. That's not trying. It's like, again, I think this disconnect between motivation and discipline, however people can figure out a way to get people to just a little bit, like daily wins. Like I tell my team a lot, and I even tell myself, I've got how many hours awake today, right? There's a probability and a possibility, I guess, of both, of having a really bad thing happen today. Like I could get a call from the doctor. I could get rear-ended in a car accident. I could lose a big contract. I could have an investor that was going to wire the check, decide the last minute he's not going to. But I also could have lots of really good things happen today too that I didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden that email from somebody I didn't know about that now wants to partner and invest. And it's like, are you preparing yourself mentally and emotionally to handle either one of those calls? Or are you just preparing yourself for the good stuff?
Right.
Because that's unrealistic. And expectations and preparations are a big part of what I used to call the living undeterred mindset. That was a mindset I was trying to, when I was talking to people about preparations and expectations. You want to expect the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
Prepare for anything. And that's, it's interesting that you use the word preparation too. I think the same goes for therapy as well. I wish that we had a better understanding of a society that you don't have to go to therapy when things have gotten bad.
Right.
Just in
Absolutely.
preparation for being a good communicator,
Yeah.
a good human to others. And I wish that people would be introduced to therapy in that space when things are good, and just to better understand yourself and to be a better communicator and better prepare for
Yeah.
life.
I used to think to myself, what I was doing before half my family passed. And I think about what I'm doing now, like a big difference in purpose and meaning, and my spiritual net worth versus my financial net
Yeah.
worth, the two separate things. One has dropped a lot, the other has gone through the roof. and at my age, I'd probably take the latter, probably have more spiritual net worth than I did financial. It's like there's something about looking at things that happened in your life and you did something you believe good out of it. Why does it take something bad to turn that on? Like, why couldn't I have just started all this without losing half my family? Because I don't think I would have. I would have been selling investments and probably still been an alcoholic, still been, massively unhealthy. But it took X to happen for Y to happen. And so I'm always ask people when I speak, why are you waiting for that call to change your life?
Yeah.
Right? You have permission to do it now. You don't have to wait for someone to die.
100%. I think the really tough thing about society too is that we have a hard time with prevention, it seems.
Oh, it's hard to measure.
And nobody thinks it's going to happen to them until it happens to them.
Nobody does.
The problem. Or happens to somebody that they know or love, and then all of a sudden it does become very real. But it's tough for the human brain, I think, to go there before it happens. But there are little things that we can do, just to be a better supporter for someone just in case. And I think educating, having somebody just educate themselves is the first step, just to be aware of what signs in others might look like or what signs in themselves might look like. Just having mental health education and mental health literacy.
Yeah. There's something, there's a disconnect in my mind between the belief that everything's mutually exclusive. Like, either go to the gym or you don't. You meditate or you don't. What I think in the meditation app that I use with Sam Harris, he's so good at, like, you can do a 2-minute meditation when you're at the grocery line. You can do not when you're driving a car, but let's say you're not driving, you're on the passenger side and you're jumping on TikTok and just scrolling to kill time. You could close your eyes very quickly and do a 30-second. So during the course of a day, you could do 10, 15, 20 short meditations.
Absolutely.
Versus 1 hour where you're just fidgeting and you're trying to capture your breath and go back to your, and you're trying to, like, fight it. The same way with working out. I mean, you could literally just go down and do a quick set of curls and jump on your elliptical for 10 minutes. It's better than nothing. It's like, and I think what people say, well, if I can't do 5 days a week and I can't get big and I can't do this, I'm not going to do it at all. And I think depression, anxiety, the same way.
100%.
You don't have to, like, go all in once you have this label of depression. You could, as I say, micromanage it, micro prepare for it, just the same with anxiety and stuff. So it's like, if you break things down into bite-sized chewable tasks, the ability for you to actually achieve whatever goal you set, okay, whether it's a, objective goal or maybe a subjective goal. I want to lose 100 pounds, or I just want to get healthier. Those are two separate goals. I think the success of it, and this is where that motivation and discipline really comes into play, is in bite-sized chewable wins. So in your head, it's the pill at the end of the day. You could say, let me do the math. I had 5 wins. I had 3 losses. I had a net positive for 2 for the day.
Yeah.
But we don't. We have something called recency bias, where you tend to remember the most recent things that happen. And then loss aversion means you tend to put more weight on losses than you do on gains. And so the combination,
negativity bias. And
the combination of those two cognitive biases come into play because on my financial career, those are big biases that hurt people with investing. They looked at the most recent stock market report and they panicked. The most recent quarterly report in their investments and they panic. Well, I kind of think there's a lot of human nature with relations to money as it does with just overall mental wellness, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't like getting those bad emails and bad calls as much as anybody, but I certainly have learned to just not make them as painful as they used to be. Yeah. Like, it's just like, to get to where I want to go, I'm going to have to go through a lot of really difficult times. And nobody said this was easy, right?
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that too. This crossed my mind while you were talking, but I actually had I had a therapist say to me once, "What do you look like? How do you feel? What does the world look like to you when you don't have anxiety?" Because I kept saying, I don't want this anxiety. I don't want it. I don't want it. And I said, honestly, I've never thought about it.
Right.
Thought about how I will feel, how I'll present, how I'll look at things differently. And she said, well, how are you going to get there if you don't know where you're going? And
Yeah.
so I think that helped me a lot. And that's why manifestations, honestly, the mindfulness
Yeah.
manifestation, I do one every single morning where
Good.
I literally look at myself in the mirror and I say words to myself. And I always thought that was the silliest thing
Me
in the world
too.
until
Yeah.
you do it. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, oh, I get it. I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I am that. I am that I am envisioning. I
Right.
am standing up straighter and taller, and I'm,
Yeah.
looking at this world of beauty and abundance. Whereas before, my brain was automatically in the space of this world is out to get me.
Yeah. Fear and
It's
scarcity.
Yeah, in scare
Yeah.
exactly, and in fight or flight. And so
You
I
become
think,
what you believe, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It makes me think of the time, and I share my story quite a bit, so people are familiar with what I've been through. And it's been hard to discuss things like suicidal ideation because people have a hard time imagining, when they look at all I'm doing and the perception that I've got things all figured out, which obviously I don't. And then I share with them, geez, it wasn't too long ago, especially when Prudence passed away, that was coming up on 5 years, where death to me was a better option. And I remember going to speak with my therapist and talking to him about suicidal ideation. And he said something that nobody's ever said. You talk about confronting situations head on. He said, okay, you do it. What next? And I'm like, I never really thought
Mm,
about it that far down.
mm.
I never thought about it. I know obviously the implications of my kids and everyone would miss me, blah, 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 blah. I know all that, but it's like, yeah, I never really thought of the implications if I did
Yeah,
it. Kind of like the analogy I used in my first book was when a dog chases that van and he's so excited to chase the van and he's going, going, going. And then he catches the van and he's like, I never thought about what I was going to do
yeah,
when I caught it.
yeah,
So it's like, and I think that's how we do things a lot. You
yeah.
you chase conquering depression. Well, let's say you did. What next? It's like I chase fighting suicidal ideation. Okay, so I win that fight. Now I don't think about okay, what's next? I want to lose 20 pounds, let's say. Okay, what's next? It's like I think we set these
Yeah.
arbitrary goals with really no mindset or plan of
How do we get
what's
there?
next. What's
Yeah,
next?
yeah,
So I think, for like us as advocates in this space, I think it's important for people to realize it's great to have goals of a happy life and all that, but what's next? Like you get that, what are you going to do next?
right.
You
And then
know?
what?
Right. And then what? And that's a great way to, and then when you answer that question, say, and then what again? And you
Yeah,
keep thinking that through and you realize very quickly that there was a lie presented to us all the way through college, all the way through life, is that you have these summits to climb, that you'll achieve these moments of standing at the top of the mountain going, hey, I won. It's like, no, you never win. Because you're always, there's another a mountain out there always taller. There's always a fire that gets
100%.
bigger. There's always a new catastrophe that comes into your life. There's always,
Yeah,
and I think that's going back to that preparation and expectations. I expect in my life good things to happen. I do, but
yeah.
I'm preparing for the next phone call.
And I think the real solution, it's not necessarily what's next, it's the ability to have what's now.
Oh yeah, good point.
And
Yeah,
I think
real
that
good point.
becomes incredibly difficult sometimes when we're thinking that we're going to just achieve this big goal and everything will get better. When in
Yeah,
reality, what we're really looking for is to enjoy right now.
and thanks for
And
bringing that up. That's huge. That's you can't enjoy next without now.
yeah,
There is no next,
100%. And yeah.
right?
And often our anxiety is taking us in the future, our depression is taking us in the past. And so it becomes very difficult to actually enjoy the now and live in the
So
now.
what is anxiety to you? Like, what does it feel? Because I've had two panic attacks
Yeah.
since my wife passed, and never had one prior. And they're hard to explain to people who've never encountered
Yeah,
them
they're
because,
so real.
I am kind of a control person. A lot of things in my life, I control. I don't mean that as a narcissist. I just mean that I know what I'm going to eat. I know what I'm going to do tomorrow and today and the next day. It's like I can control
Yeah.
my environment. And when when that gets disrupted, that creates anxiety in me that wasn't there prior. So like for you, you don't have to be real specific, but like
Oh no, I'm happy.
what creates anxiety for you?
Yeah,
And do you think a lot of it's a lie? Like you think anxiety
no,
is just a check
not
engine
at
light
all.
for people?
I can say for me, my body quite literally has been for the past, I think, 10 years in fight or flight. And I didn't
Mm,
realize that until recently. Um, I have inflammation in my body. I have, uh, how do I put it? My stomach constantly feels like it's doing little flips inside
mm,
constantly. I mean, I feel like I don't have breaks even when I'm sleeping. I'll wake up and
yeah.
it's still, I mean, everything. Um, like this kind of like pressure in my chest all the time. I was living in fight or flight personally for many different reasons.
Yeah.
One of them, though, was because of my brain. My
Mm,
pituitary glands weren't properly functioning, and because of that, my body wasn't producing hormones, or my brain
mm,
I wasn't producing hormones, and so without the hormones, my cortisol levels had risen, and when the cortisol levels were that high,
yeah.
then everything else starts to break down. So it was all. I mean,
Explainable.
your
It was
mind is part of
explainable.
your body. It's
Yeah.
but the anxiety, incredibly real, and so now still there. It's getting better, but
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
that I'm having, the help with it, now my body is able and my brain is able to get to a place where I can use the coping skills that I already knew, where I could use breath work, where I can meditate in the morning and use
Mm-hmm.
those mindfulness practices because I'm no longer in that fight or flight constantly. It comes and goes for me now.
Yeah.
But for me, it was hormone replacement therapy, and that did wonders. But the reason that I also bring up that medical side is I would love to see the dialogue shift around mental health, around anxiety, depression, OCD, all of these labels. Instead of it being a diagnosis, I would love to address them also as a symptom,
Yeah.
because I think we're not often getting curious and questioning. Okay, I'm depressed. Why am I feeling depressed right now?
Right.
Has there been a sudden change in my life? Is it the weather? Do I not do well around certain temperatures or
Seasonal
weather?
depression. Yeah.
Could it be something happening underlying? Could it be related to something else? Why am I anxious? Is it because I had coffee this morning? Maybe
Right.
coffee doesn't bode well. Or do I have, did I experience trauma? Is there generalized anxiety? Is it, there's so many reasons that someone might feel any of those, any of those. And if we don't get curious, we're just labeling it and taking a pill. And
Mm.
not that, there is a time and a place for medication, I believe, and also a time and a place for coping. I'm not here to
Yeah.
say that neither that we don't want either of them, but I think before we turn to that, getting curious and figuring out what's actually driving those
100%.
feelings.
I could go on and on and on about this topic because this is really kind of a foundation of my next project that I haven't really announced publicly yet, but it's the book I'm working on called The Upstream Mind. And it's all about, what is the difference between being very sad and having mild depression? Like at some point, there's a crossover.
Yes.
Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's like, what's the difference between being mildly cold and fairly warm? Like, what's the difference between
Mhm.
partly cloudy and
And where
partly
does it cross?
sunny?
When does it cross that?
Right. So it's
Yeah.
like, in the medical space, there shouldn't be a gray area like that. You should either be very sad or mildly depressed. But I don't think there is. And a lot of it's just the way the profession is set up. Like my son, Roman, my youngest son, was not kind of struggling, but obviously his mom and his brother died. So he was certainly struggling
Of course.
and decided to go to a therapist, and that went okay. And then got referred to see a psychologist. Well, the first meeting with the psychologist, I didn't sit in. I just let Roman go in. Roman didn't feel super like he kind of wanted me there, like not to say anything, but just to kind of be there. And so I sat in the second meeting, and I kid you not. So this is a 20, maybe a 19-year-old. Okay. Because, his mom died a day after his 18th birthday. So the rest of his life, every birthday he has the next day is mom's death day. So obviously he's got some things to work out. we're sitting in so I come in and I have a hoodie on and I have my hood up. So I'm just trying to look like a normal dad, even though this guy doesn't know that I'm like a mental health advocate. And I was so appalled at how the conversation started. So the guy's sitting there in his desk, like your traditional therapist, like you want to see the pipe and everything. And he's got all the degrees and his happy family pictures and everything behind him. And he says, "How you doing, Roman?" And the first thing he asks, he goes, so have you been, so I think it was either, so have you been feeling depressed lately or have you been depressed lately? And I just I looked over, I'm like, dude, I go, that's in my mind. I'm thinking, this is how you're going to start a conversation with an adolescent with their prefrontal cortex that can't even tell you what depression is.
Yeah.
You're asking him to self-diagnose in the first 5 seconds of a meeting. Yeah. And so I finally just interrupted him and said, "Hey, could my son tell you what he thinks depression is? So you guys are on the same playing field, because you guys are going to be talking about something, you're defining it differently." And Roman said, "Yeah, I've been sad for a very long period of time." And I just kind of went, I looked over, I'm going, you had an opportunity there, dude, and you just stuck to your training and all that. I said, a better question would have said, Roman, how are you feeling lately? Yeah. Not putting the word depression into his damn mind. I was 100%. That was the last time we saw a therapist with that guy. I was like, I'm not going to do this. This is why the system is freaking broken. Words do matter. And you're anointing my son as being depressed without you two even understanding what, at least my son, understanding what depression really is. And why, maybe he's just very sad right now. And what's wrong with leaving it at that? Yeah. Well, you can't, it doesn't fit the DSM, and you can't prescribe a med to just be very sad. And that's where I'm just like, I'm trying to get everybody to look at this differently. Sure, maybe Roman needs to be on Lexapro or something. I don't know, but not the first meeting.
I mean, I completely agree. And I think asking those open-ended questions are the best way to go about it in general. One thing that I say to students all the time as we program is, remember that your therapist is human too. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't have to be the best fit, the first therapist you see. And that's okay. And I think we need to walk in the room saying, okay, this could be a wonderful person. I can be a wonderful person, and we just might not be the right match, and that's okay. And I think for a lot of individuals that I see trying therapy for the first time, they say, "Well, I didn't like my therapist. It wasn't good, so I'm never going back." And it's finding the right fit, but remembering that they're human and they're not perfect. And as also, was your situation too.
Also, keep sight that there's nothing really to fix. You're not broken. You're just going through a lived experience that's unique to you, that is different than what other people are going through. But I think this mindset that you're broken, and if I say somebody's broken, there's an assumption that somebody's not. Well, you show me a non-broken human being. Show me somebody that's not going through something.
Everyone.
Show me somebody that didn't have childhood abuse when they were, 4, that they had no control over, that they carry with them the rest of their life. These aren't broken people. And I think I get frustrated when I hear that term thrown around, like, somebody needs to go get fixed. I'm like, fixed from what? Yeah. They're having a hard time. They need help. They need a handhold. They need a pep rally. They need to talk. They need someone to listen. And if they need meds, then so be it. But this assumption that we're just all running around all effed up, I guess that creates a market for pharmaceutical companies, right? Because how can you tame something that it's not named? And once it's broken, you can't fix, what do you have to fix? Or once it's fixed, I should say, what do you, yes. So I don't consider myself broken at all. In the last 9 years, I've had the massive highs and lows. I've had a gun to my head. I've buried my family, but I'm also at an age where this stuff happens. Yeah. I mean, you live long enough, simple math says, people you care about, shitty things, bad luck, things are going to happen. It doesn't always happen in the order that you perceive or the 100%. Timing, but neither does good news either. Right. Good news doesn't always happen in the order you expect. Right. Well, a lot of times it's random. You meet the right person at the right time, or you're at the right conference and someone's just grabbing a coffee and you bump into them. Next thing you know, they're your biggest investor. So it's like, as much as you want to sit there and think everyone's out to get you, you also got to remember there's if you just have an open heart and you're always out there showing up every day, I'm secular. I don't believe that God's going to come in and personally save you, but I do think there's a really, you heighten the probability of good things happening if you run through life caring and loving and helping and nurturing
Agreed.
and if it never does work out, then so be it,
100%. And I mean, it's the energy that you put out,
right.
and then the energy that people want to give back. They feel good around you. So it, I used to think it was so woo-woo, the concept of energy and all of that. It's not. It's just feeling good around somebody. You do receive the positivity that you give.
Yeah. I mean, probably sooner than later, I'm going to share a full episode on my psychedelic experiences because they've been arguably probably the reason why I'm still here. And then I saw the President Trump sign an executive order to do more to speed up FDA approval from psychedelics, specifically Ibogaine, for veterans and mental health. So, there's something out there. And these things have worked. And again, going back to my comment about people being fixed and there's no summit to climb, there's no like place you're going to achieve ultimate nirvana or peace that you want to find. I think of like going through life, like you have this quiver on your back full of arrows, right? And there's not one arrow in there that's going to slay the beast. And maybe the beast is depression or anxiety or suicidal ideation. There's multiple ways that you attack it. Like you pull out an arrow and you shoot, and maybe it's meditation, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's getting divorced from the person that's toxic in your life, or maybe it's closing that business down that's been stressing you out. It's like there's coping mechanisms that I think when I set out to build Brighton, I didn't set out thinking I was going to fix people. I wanted to build an AI-powered app in the palm of people's hands for those people that this is an arrow in the quiver. For a lot, it's not going to be. Some people just aren't on apps. Some people get bored because we don't doom scroll. We don't have all the addictive things in it that say TikTok or Instagram have. But for the right set of people that are shifting from motivation to discipline, that need to find that thing to get a routine built, I think Brighton is perfect for that.
Absolutely.
And it may be the same for your nonprofit, for the right organization that's open-minded to have what do you call it? The shed shame movement, to have this at their school or at their facility, non-judgmental, to me, it's like another arrow in the quiver. And that's my job, is try to find as many arrows that I can get for people. And Brighton's one of them.
Yeah.
Project Blackbird's another. And get as many as we can. So
and reinforcing it.
Yeah. So
how many people care about this and are there to support.
Yeah. And it's all about options and choices. And then ultimately it's about autonomy.
Yeah.
It's about, when I quit drinking, it came down to a moment when I looked in the mirror, like you talked about, you looking in the mirror. And I just said, you pathetic coward, you piece of, what, you couldn't do
I hope
this.
You never speak to yourself like that now.
No, I'm much better. I'm nicer to I try to treat myself like
when you're in that place, it's real.
Yeah, it is real. And I'm looking at myself going, once I understood that stopping drinking wasn't a sacrifice, like it wasn't giving up alcohol. I hear people say, I gave up alcohol 8 years ago. No, you didn't. You got your life back. You didn't give up. You didn't give up anything. You didn't give up. It's all about getting. You didn't give up, because that implies a sacrifice. A sacrifice implies a loss.
Yeah.
What did you lose by stopping drinking? Nothing, except weight. And, it's like, so I think, again, AA preys on this victim mindset. And it's like, I'm not a big fan of AA. I've been to meetings. To me, they're just depressing. They're semi-encouraging, but the whole culture of you're held victimless, you are powerless. That's how they sell it to you. Once you surrender to a higher power, then that power that alcohol had becomes powerless. And I'm like, no, I don't think you have to surrender to anybody. There's no surrendering involved. That you're not giving up anything. You're just drawing a line in the sand and saying, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And so I think mental health kind of reaches the same way. It does. I mean, if you're noticing your sugar is too much, well, then just stop. Just stop eating candy bars and drinking Mountain Dews. And if you're having too much caffeine, have 1 cup of coffee or go to tea. there's just these little things you can do in your life that aren't just drastic, massive changes that actually those can create more anxiety.
Yeah.
When you're making a wholesale change or you're putting these unrealistic expectations, like I'm never going to have a negative thought. Well, really?
Yeah, it's not
It's
realistic.
like, yeah, give yourself a break. You're going to be crazy in a day.
Right, right. The baby steps, bite sizes of the pizza. You don't have to eat the entire pizza at once, just slice by slice, bite
Depends
by
how good
bite.
the pizza. It depends how good the pizza is,
This
but
is true. One bite could happen.
well, let's wrap this up. This has been a great conversation. Maybe talk a little bit about had the shed shame movement. Like, what is that? How can people reach you?
Yeah.
How can they learn more? And of course, maybe briefly talk about the gala you have coming up. I'm not sure if this is going to time it well, but there's always will be another one. But
Yeah.
maybe talk about the gala. How can people donate? Because you are a 501c3, so you do
Yes.
accept tax deductible contributions, and that's a big way how you can do what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the organization, as I shared earlier, we program at different K through 12 high schools, colleges. So in terms of support through donation, all of those go to providing the direct year of resources that we give to the students that are really in crisis. And on top of it, it also allows us to program nationally. Not all schools can afford this. And unfortunately, that means that not all students that go to schools can receive this. So in order to keep doing that work, we do rely mostly on donations, mostly on donors that really care about the youth and care about helping them to become the next leaders of this world. The website is www.projectblackbirdinc.org. And you can certainly learn more about the organization there. We also love connecting with anybody that has a school in mind that they want to bring us to, helping us to connect with those schools so that we can come to your area. We're a national program, so we are in every state. And then the gala that we have coming up is really our once a year opportunity to help introduce ourselves to new donors, get the support that keeps us alive and running for the year ahead. So we have our annual gala in Washington, D.C. It's coming up on May 8th. So for anybody listening in the D.C. area that would like to attend and come support us, we'd love to have you there. It's going to be a really wonderful night of connection. We have Lee Steinberg that we're honoring. We have the Department of Education, the Department of Behavioral Health will be there. We have wonderful corporate sponsors that have supported us in that space, and then a lot of wonderful philanthropists who really care about this mission. And so I hope that those listening can come and join us either this year or in one of the future years to come.
Yeah, and people can. You have auction items and stuff too. Like you have.
We do.
So can people see that online if they're not present?
Yes, we will have
Okay.
an online link that I am
Okay.
happy to share before it. I would love to share that, and anyone can participate from afar in that. And if you're here in town, it's at National Park Baseball Stadium, so it'll be a fun one too. We want to bring joy in the room and just be mindful that not everyone is experiencing that, but we can get them there.
Awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate your time today. I know you're hopping, you're jet setting, you're wheeling and dealing, so I can respect that. But I really appreciate your time, and we look forward to continuing this conversation. Okay.
Thank you. And you too, Jeff. I really enjoyed being here and chatting with you today. Thank you so much for having me on.
You bet. Thanks. Take care.